Feel free to be whoever you want to be. Feel free to dance, feel free to sing, just feel free. Feels like the world is picking on you.
Alright guys, welcome to episode 23 of the Two-Tone Talk podcast. My first episode that I've done in 2 months. The last one I did was the day after the Super Bowl. Took a little time off, but due to free agency and all that stuff, I figured it was a good time to hop back on. I do want to briefly apologize to the good people of YouTube, which, to be honest with you, is where majority of my listeners are for this podcast. I just tried to go live a moment ago and do this podcast, and had some technical difficulties. My internet just went down, and I was not able to continue going live, and so I kind of had to restart. So I want to apologize to them. I was about 7 or 8 minutes in to the podcast when I had to ditch the whole thing and start over, restart the computer, all that stuff. So I do want to apologize for the technical difficulties. We are restarting. I'm going to try to cover the little bit of ground that I had already covered. Free agency is underway. Thank you for listening to the podcast wherever you're listening. If you're not subscribed to the Two-Tone Talk podcast YouTube channel, please go do that. If you're not following at Two-Tone Talk on Twitter, please go do that. And I would appreciate it greatly. So, free agency has begun, and a lot of big-time signings all over the league, and the Titans have signed some guys as well. New GM Rand Carthon, it appears, has 2 categories that he is looking at to sign new guys. The first is guys that he has worked with before, guys that he helped get into the league in San Francisco and when he had the job there. And then guys that are kind of going to be on prove-it deals. Guys who have been, sitting on the bench behind very talented guys at other places. Maybe guys who got hurt, lost their starting job, and just, the other guy did so good they never got it back. Now they're getting a chance to prove themselves in Tennessee. Most of it is 1-year deals. So like I said, kind of prove-it deals. If you're good, great. If you're not, it's not the end of the world. We only sign you to a 1-year deal. That's what the Titans appear to be doing in free agency. Who knows? Depends on how these guys do. But not the flashiest signings in the world. Again, if you're just tuning in on YouTube, sorry for the technical difficulties a little bit ago. Kind of had to restart the live stream. Internet kind of crashed. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. But everybody's kind of coming back in now, trickling in. And be sure to click that like button as you come in as well. Anyway, we're talking about free agency. Like I said, Titans not the flashiest signings in the world, but the Titans have had to let some people go, which is something that I was talking about when I was so rudely interrupted by the internet cutting off a little bit ago. A lot of guys who have become synonymous with the Titans that the Titans have kind of had to part ways with. We kind of expected Taylor Lewan, Ben Jones, those guys who were kind of a real cornerstone of this Titans team the last few years, and in Lewan's case for the last decade. They are now looking for jobs elsewhere. Again, we all knew that was coming, but it is always kind of a bitter pill to swallow. We have parted ways with Bud Dupree, which I think we all knew that was coming. We have parted ways with Zach Cunningham. I think we all knew that was coming. Randy Bullock. I think we all knew that was coming. Robert Woods. I think we all knew that was coming. And as I was saying a little bit ago, the one that shocked me the most was David Long. I was very surprised, especially when I saw what the Miami Dolphins were paying him. Very manageable price. Can't believe that David Long is not with the Titans anymore. But, as I said, Mike Vrabel made some comments about the injuries and threw out David Long's name. In his press conference at the end of the season, he flat out said, hey, guys like David Long, repeat offenders, guys who get hurt, come back for a couple games, then get hurt again. There's no denying when David Long was healthy, he was one of the best defensive players that the Titans had, but he was just hurt a lot. And I think it was so much so that the Titans just decided to part ways with him. Still surprising That's the one so far that I did not see coming. I knew Lawan, Ben Jones, Bud Dupree, Robert Woods. I knew those guys were probably gone, but I was very surprised at the release of David Long. Now, in the middle of all those guys getting released, we look at the new guys that are coming in. Probably the biggest signing that the Titans have made during this free agency boom period over the last week is Arden Key, who this one's just kind of, it's always satisfying when you can take a good player from a rival. And Arden Key, obviously he was a big-time defensive guy for the Jacksonville Jaguars, really got after the quarterback for them this past year. No doubt they wanted to bring him back, but now he's with the Titans. So that's always funny when you could take a good player from a rival. And I'm excited about that one. I think that, obviously with losing Bud Dupree, you kind of want somebody on that other side. Assuming we re-sign Jeffrey Simmons, Danico Autry back in there, Harold Landry. I'm excited to get him back. Hope he's able to, come back well from that ACL injury. And then, having Arden Key on the other side. I think that's probably their best signing so far. I'm very excited, and watching what he had to say in his press conference today with the Titans. Guy's got a lot of attitude. He's got a lot to say about Jacksonville. Cracked me up a little bit, I'm not going to lie. Some of that is just still sour grapes from the Jags, beating us in the season finale. But everybody beat us for the last 2 months of the season. So can't really get mad at them for that. But Arden Key, it's probably their most notable signing so far. Azeez Al-Shaair, who was, one of those guys I talked about. He was a linebacker for San Francisco. We all know how good San Francisco's defense has been the last couple of years, and he was on that defense. Wasn't a starter, but was a guy who was very talented, who just had a lot of very talented guys ahead of him. But he got a lot of playing time and played well for them. Very physical guy. And he's one of those guys. Hey, we're going to give you an opportunity to, I'm assuming he's going to start. With the two starting inside linebackers we had, David Long and Zach Cunningham, they're both gone. Monty Rice is going to have to step up, the guy from Georgia, young guy who's kind of been in and out of the lineup. Kind of the depth guy at linebacker. I'm assuming he's going to be moving up to a starting position alongside Al-Shaair. And I think that, again, it's a prove-it deal. We're gonna sign you. We're gonna bring you in. We're gonna give you an opportunity. And if you're great, then great. If you're not, then we'll just move on. And then we get into the offensive line, which, good Lord, as I was saying before I got interrupted by the bad internet a second ago. The good thing is when you have an offensive line that was as bad as Tennessee's was this past year, anything's an improvement. Like literally, the guys they signed, they are guys who, have been waiting for an opportunity. Andre Dillard from Philadelphia, he was a first-round draft pick, came in, started, got hurt. The guy that stepped in for him did so good, he never got his job back. And so he's just kind of looking for an opportunity to show that he can still play. I don't know how that guy's going to do. I don't know whether he's going to be the left tackle, which we know how important that position is on an offensive line when you're dealing with a right-handed quarterback. I don't know where they're going to put him on that offensive line, but I do know he cannot be worse than Dennis Daly. So rejoice in that, at least. That we have, you could have put a piece of paper out there, and it would have been an improvement over Dennis Daly. And so I think Dillard is, people are debating. I love the people who said, "Man, this guy's going to compete for a starting spot." It's like, no, dude, he's a starter. There ain't going to be no competing. He is going to be starting. Like, who's he going to compete with? Ain't nobody to compete with. The other offensive lineman, Daniel Brunskill. Brunskill from San Francisco, another 49ers guy who has been brought in and kind of, again, I don't think he was a starter there, but he was kind of like the sixth man or whatever, like if you want to put it in basketball terms, looking for an opportunity, and he's going to get one. And again, he's going to be starting. Like, this guy's going to be starting. There's not going to be any I know Vrabel has to say, well, he's going to compete for a spot on the. No, this guy's going to be a starter. Beggars can't be choosers, guys. As far as the rest of the offense, those are the two O linemen that have been signed for Tennessee, and you can't complain because we have to have it. We're pretty much rebuilding the offensive line, assuming Nicholas Petit-Frere, who was a rookie last year, he'll be back at right tackle. Like it or not, I think Aaron Brewer's going to be back. I think Aaron Brewer's going to. Well, I know he's going to be back. I mean, they're bringing him back. I think he's going to be back as a starter. I think he's going to be back as the starting center. He was left guard last year. I think they're going to move him over to center. You may not like that, but it is what it is. I'm not crazy about it either because the guy's undersized. But, he's going to be back, and he's probably going to be starting because I think Mike Vrabel has proven he likes the guy. He likes Aaron Brewer. I wonder about a guy like Dylan Radins, where he fits in. Now that's a guy that it feels like Vrabel has not exactly taken to as much as as a guy like Brewer. I think Radins is a guy that Vrabel appears to be skeptical of for whatever reason, but you got to wonder with Brewer, Brunskill, Dillard, Petit-Frere, Radins, Corey Levin, who was brought in late in the year, Jordan Ruse. I mean, any of these guys that they brought in at the end who may have done halfway decent. You have to wonder, like, the offensive line room at least looks kind of competent now as opposed to, the beginning of, or the end of the season when it looked flat out hopeless and miserable and terrible. So there's your offensive line. That's the only offensive players that we've seen signed. Luke Gifford has been signed. He's going to come in to be a special teams guy. They just signed a corner from Tampa Bay today. And so the defensive side of things is really taking shape. Of course, there are some guys you'd like to get for depth at certain positions. You want to re-sign Big Jeff Simmons. Yes, you do. You want to re-sign Big Jeff and have a good front four there, but Tier Tart, you want to get a guy like that back. Obviously, Naquan Jones, who they're bringing back. So the defensive side of things is taking shape, and I'm still skeptical of some of these guys. I'll be honest with you. Roger McCreary, I'm still skeptical of him. He got burned a lot. I know he was a rookie, but he got burned a lot. I'm skeptical of Monty Rice, who has never had the weight of being a starter week in and week out on him. So I'm skeptical of him. I think that... there are certain other guys. I'm worried about Harold Landry coming back from a major injury. But the defensive side of the ball for Tennessee this season really has taken shape over free agency with Arden Key and Azeez Al-Shaair and the corner they signed out of Tampa Bay today kind of taking shape. So now you shift your attention to the offensive side of the ball, which is where the Titans need the most help. Right? This is where they need just help upon help upon help. First of all, shift your attention away from the O-line. The group that needs help the most right now, the wide receivers. And so far we have sat and we have watched as free agent wide receiver after free agent wide receiver has gone to other teams so far in free agency. And some of these guys I think are getting paid a little much. But we've seen Brandon Cooks be traded to the Dallas Cowboys. We've seen, things like that happening with wide receivers that, we were kind of looking at. DJ Chark was a guy people were talking about. Adam Thielen was somebody people were talking about who's now gone to Carolina. And the Titans wide receiver room right now looks, like one of the worst in the league. Treylon Burks has shown a lot of signs. Of course, we're hopeful for him. Kyle Phillips, another rookie from last year who will be in his sophomore season and I don't remember the last time I watched him play in a game. Racey McMath. And of course, we're bringing back Nick Westbrook-Akine. Now he's getting he's really on the bare minimum in terms of contracts, but we've brought back Westbrook-Akine, and I don't want him to have to be a wide receiver 2 or even a 3. I want him to be like wide receiver 5 or 6 and being a special teams guy. That's the capacity that I would like Nick Westbrook-Akine to be on this team. We've got to have some help here, and I know they could draft a good wide receiver even in the second round of this upcoming draft. Here's my problem. We've already got one of the youngest receiving groups in the league. Traylon and Kyle Phillips are only going to be in their second year in the league. And Kyle Phillips didn't even play a lot in his rookie season because he was so hurt all the time. Racey McMath is going to be in his third year, and he hasn't played a bunch. He's left a lot to be desired. So, I mean, we're really missing a veteran presence in the wide receivers room, and I don't know what their plan is. I mean, obviously people are going to talk about Odell. I've said it before about Odell. He does not strike me as a Mike Vrabel kind of guy, so I don't see that happening. A lot of people have linked the Titans with DeAndre Hopkins. I know the Arizona Cardinals, they wanted a high draft pick for him. I don't think they're going to get it. Looking at the wide receiver market in terms of trades and the way it's playing out, I mean, maybe the Titans could land DeAndre Hopkins for not much. But, I've said it before, and I think some of you may have that Julio PTSD just like I do. Man, are we getting another Julio if we get DeAndre Hopkins? Just somebody who was just unbelievable just a few years ago, but now they're getting older. They're injured a lot. They're in and out of the lineup constantly. They're not able to produce like they once were. Like, is that what we would be getting with a guy like DeAndre Hopkins? Would it just be Julio all over again? And I can't say it wouldn't be, because you look at Hopkins' career over the last couple of years, and he has followed that kind of Julio trend. Maybe not quite as hurt as Julio always is, but he is kind of always got something. He tweaks something here and aggravates something there. And so, of course, that makes me a little bit iffy on a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, he's one of the best receivers that we've seen in the last 20 years. But I'm talking about right now, in 2023, is that a guy that can really come in and make a big impact? And if it's not him, who is it? Who's going to be the wide receiver? Everybody says they need to draft somebody and they need to bring in a veteran free agent. I don't know who that veteran free agent's going to be right now, but they better figure something out, because everybody that was linked to them has now been signed somewhere else, and I don't know. But the wide receiver room is a dry and barren land, and I don't know. We got to do something, right? You got to do something to kind of fix this, and so we'll see. But right now, that wide receiver room is the area of the team that needs the most attention. Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon have decided that they need to create room for more money. And so they went to Kevin Byard and they asked him to take a pay cut. He refused. And right now, that's all we know. Kevin Byard did not say he wanted to be released. He has not requested a trade. The Titans have not said they want to move on from Byard. There's rumors. But the Titans have not said, hey, we want to move on from this guy. Nor has Byard said, I want to move on from this team. They asked him to take a pay cut, and he refused. And right now, that's the extent of it. As far as Kevin Byard goes, my gut tells me he will be back. But I am a little hesitant to say that, because I said the same thing about A.J. Brown. I know we had another GM at that time who made an all-time boneheaded move in trading A.J. But, I've learned as a fan of this team and a fan of an NFL team for a long time, you never say never. You can't just say, oh, Kevin Byard will absolutely. He will never leave this team to go play somewhere else. Man, don't ever, ever, ever say never. I don't know. My gut feeling is Byard will be back. I think it would be a huge mistake to let him go. But then again, I'm also very skeptical. I'm also very skeptical of whether or not are they that desperate for money is really what it comes down to. Are they that desperate to open up some room to pay some other guys that they're willing? And here's my thing there. I mentioned this on my main channel the other day. If we need to have some guys take a pay cut, maybe we need to go talk to Mr. Ryan Tannehill, who's scheduled to get paid a heck of a lot of money, more than anybody on the team. How about we talk to him about taking a pay cut? Maybe talk to him about taking a pay cut somewhere else with another team. And that's a good segue into my next thing I want to talk about, and that is Ryan Tannehill and the quarterback situation. That's one big area where we don't really know where we stand right now. The rumors, I want to be clear here. There are rumors about Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, as of about 5 days ago, he can talk to other teams about a new deal. And the Ravens will, of course, have the opportunity to match it. But if the Ravens don't want to match it, he can go elsewhere. And there have been rumors that link the Titans with Lamar Jackson. I just don't believe it. I don't believe that the Titans are going to do that. I don't think they can pull it off financially. I don't think they're going to do it. I don't even think they're going to inquire about it. I think that, honestly, I think Lamar Jackson's just going to end up back with the Ravens, is honestly what I think is going to happen with him. I just can't imagine the Titans making that big of a move. I can't imagine. Now, do I hope they do? Well, yeah. There have been debates raging on Twitter about who's the better quarterback, Lamar Jackson or Ryan Tannehill. And there are a lot of Titans fans suggesting that Tannehill is better. I appreciate Ryan Tannehill. Love Ryan Tannehill. I appreciate what he's done for the Titans. But the fact that we got Titans fans out here trying to say that Ryan Tannehill gives us just as good, if not better, a chance of getting to a Super Bowl than, Lamar Jackson. That just tells me how conditioned we are to just accept mediocrity. And I hate to call it mediocrity because in the regular season, Ryan Tannehill, over the course of his Titans career, has performed pretty well. Very well at times. A lot of times. But in the playoffs, listen, people try to point to the fact that the Titans beat the Ravens in that divisional playoff game that time as proof that Tannehill's better than Lamar. Go look at the stats from that game. Ryan Tannehill threw for 88 yards, while Derrick Henry ran for 200. Lamar Jackson had like 500 yards of total offense in that game. Don't give me that crap. Don't give me that crap. One team had Derrick Henry that night and one team didn't. One team had a chip on their shoulder that night and one team didn't. But give me a break. What happened the next season when the Ravens and the Titans played in the playoffs? What happened the next season? Tannehill wet the bed in that playoff game. I think people have forgotten about that playoff game because the one against the Bengals the next season hurt so bad that they just forgot that there was a playoff game at home in Nashville the year before where Ryan Tannehill wet the bed. And to be fair, so did Derrick Henry that day, while Lamar Jackson was running all over the field and throwing all over the field, and the Ravens got their revenge in Nashville the next year. So don't give me that crap about who can win in the playoffs. They both beat each other in the playoffs. Come on. Give me a break. Ryan Tannehill, you'd rather have Ryan. So all you people that say you'd rather have Ryan Tannehill than Lamar Jackson, you mean to tell me if you get the update on your phone today, the Titans have come to terms with Lamar Jackson to be the quarterback of the team, you mean to tell me you're not going to be excited? You mean to tell me you're not going to be excited about that if that update comes across your phone? You mean to tell me you're going to sit there and say, man, we should have stuck with Tannehill? Is that what you're telling me? You're not going to say that. You're not going to say that. I would love for the Titans to go get Lamar Jackson. I don't think they're going to. But I would love for him to. I'd love for him to. Now, assuming they don't get Lamar Jackson, what's the path forward at quarterback? Assuming that the unthinkable with Lamar doesn't happen, what's the path forward? Well, a lot of the guys that we talked about, Derek Carr, he's now with the Saints. Jimmy G, he's now with the Raiders. Aaron Rodgers, who knows? Probably with the Jets, but that soap opera continues, and I'm well past caring. He'll either be with the Jets or the Packers. Tom Brady went home, retired. Those were some of the names that we heard mentioned alongside the Titans. And those guys have, I remember even hearing a name like Geno Smith. Well, even he's back with Seattle, so that's off the table. So a lot of those names, you got to use process of elimination here. So then you look at the draft. And you say, well, there was hope that they could trade up there and get either Stroud or Bryce Young. But now that Carolina has made the jump they made and they're the number one pick, I got to believe they're going to take either C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, and Houston at number 2 is going to take whichever one they don't take. Meaning, yeah, there will be people who say, well, you should trade up to 3 with Arizona so you can get the Anthony Richardson guy from Florida. Some of you may disagree with this, but I don't think Anthony Richardson is worth trading up for. I'm sorry. I don't understand the hype behind him. Y'all keep telling me, everybody on SportsCenter is like, oh man, look at his vertical jump from the combine. Look at how fast he ran in the combine. Look at how well he threw a fly route in the combine against air. Like, yeah, go back and look at some of the plays he made or didn't make in actual games at Florida. Look at the success he had. I don't know where this whole Anthony Richardson just gushing over him, where that came from or how it started or how he got put on the same level as C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. But I think it's ridiculous. And I don't want to trade up for Anthony Richardson. And I sure don't want to trade up for Will Levis. So, unless Carolina or Houston just makes a boneheaded decision, and one of them takes Anthony Richardson, meaning that either Stroud or Bryce Young will still be available at number 3, unless that happens, I don't want to trade up for quarterback in this draft, guys. I'm sorry. If Stroud and Bryce Young are gone in the top 2, I don't want to trade up for Anthony Richardson, and I don't want to trade up for Will Levis. I'd almost rather wait until late in the draft and see if a guy like Hendon Hooker is still available and try to take him, although that feels very similar to Malik Willis in terms of, okay, here's a project quarterback. We're going to see how it works out. We're going to see if they can, adapt well. Who knows? I just feel like you're repeating the Malik Willis thing. And who knows what his future holds, by the way. That's another story for another time. I think thus far in his Titans career, with the exception of a couple of moments here or there, he looks like he's got so far to go that it may be too big a bridge to gap, in my opinion. So, okay, we listed all those free agents and guys that have landed somewhere, and now with the Carolina Panthers taking the number 1 pick, that's looking a lot less likely that the Titans are going to do that. So what options are left? Tannehill. That's the options that are left. Unless you just want to give the reins to Malik Willis and say, hey, for better or for worse, here you go. If you suck, well, you suck. Do you guys really think that's going to happen? Do you guys really think Mike Vrabel is going to give the reins to Malik Willis and say, go for it? After what we saw from him last year, guys, come on. I don't fault you if you still have hope for the kid, but do you really believe he's ready to be a week-in, week-out starter for a team in the NFL? You know he's not. I think it's more likely that they would give the job to Josh Dobbs. That's a tongue twister. Give the job to Josh Dobbs. I think it's more likely they do that. So if they don't go with one of the guys they already have, and by the way, at this point, where would Tannehill land if they wanted to trade him? Because the main partner they could have was the Jets, and it looks like they're going to get Aaron the soap opera Rodgers. So, I mean, maybe you could make an argument for like the Washington Commanders may take a guy like Tannehill. Maybe I've seen people mention the Atlanta Falcons because they bring in so many former Titans. They're going to go with Ritter. They're going to go with Ritter over there. I'm telling you. Who else is there? Who else are you looking at and saying, oh, that team probably could use Tannehill? There's one. One just came to mind. There's one. Because I just saw a week or two ago that the LA Rams are actively trying to find a trade partner for Matthew Stafford. So, okay, you could make a trade to send Tannehill to the Rams and Stafford to the Titans. And some people would say that's a great improvement because Stafford just won a Super Bowl in which he played really well just a year ago. But they're not going to be that excited about that. I mean, come on. You know Stafford's probably retiring in a year. I think he'll be playing somewhere this upcoming season. But after that, I mean, he's won a Super Bowl. You could tell this guy's like, all right, I'm just going to make a little more money here. Like, I'm sure he'd like to win another one, but come on. Is that unless you get unbelievable trade value, do you really want to trade Tannehill for Stafford? I mean, good Lord. Again, Stafford probably better than Tannehill, but is he that much better that you could put him on this team and tell him to have at it? I don't know, man. I don't know. A lot of people still talking about Trey Lance. I mean, my gosh, you got Rand Carthon bringing in all these former 49ers, or not former, but guys that he helped scout. Trey Lance, one of those guys. So do you want to believe that? Do you want to believe that Rand Carthon's going to pull some strings and get Trey Lance in Nashville? And if he does, how much have we seen of Trey Lance? Do we feel good about that? Man, I don't know. I want to end the podcast today with an infamous question that all Titans fans are asking. Are we rebuilding? Are we tearing this thing down and just starting over? New GM? Well, in my heart of hearts, as of right now, based on what I've seen, I don't know if I'm willing to say the Titans are rebuilding. Although, I mean, who's left? Henry, Tannehill, Big Jeff, Byard for now. Lawan's gone. Ben Jones is gone. David Long's gone. I mean, Amani Hooker's still in there. Christian Fulton, he's still young. I mean, there's not many guys left that were on this team when they were in the AFC title game a few years ago. So, in terms of a rebuild, it kind of already feels like we've started it. I mean, it kind of feels like it started last year when we got rid of A.J. Brown. Like, we just got rid of a ton of guys. Now, it depends on whether you want to call it a rebuild or a reload. We're still, I think the message Carthon has sent so far with the guys he signed is, hey, we're going to try to be competitive. Well, there's talent on this team. We're going to try to go out there and win. We're not just going to go out there and tank. But, and again, I've said it before, I'm not a cap space expert, but I will say, next offseason, the Titans are going to have money to play with. So, I don't know if I'd call it a rebuild, but is it the kind of thing where Rand Carthon is saying, hey, we're going to get what we can get this offseason to just try to be competitive this fall, and whatever happens, we're going to have a lot of money to play with next offseason. So worst case scenario, if we suck, if we're just all right, if we're mid, we'll come back and make some moves. Similar to moves that we're seeing teams like the Bears make this offseason, or the Jets, or the Panthers. I mean, these are teams who are making big-time moves this offseason. So maybe the Titans are sitting back and saying, hey, we're going to do what we can to be as competitive as we can be this season so that, next offseason we can throw out some money, get some big-time guys, and really amp this thing up because we got a new stadium being built here in a couple of years. So I don't know if I call it a rebuild. I'd almost call it a soft rebuild. It's a soft rebuild. Now, if we see them start to get rid of guys like Kevin Byard and Derrick Henry, then yes, it's a full-on rebuild at that point. If you're getting rid of guys like that, then you have to call it what it is. That's a full-fledged rebuild. But as I said here right now, and I'm going to check Twitter while I'm still on to see if there's any crazy things that have happened. No, just press conferences of the guys I've already signed today. Not seeing anything. No, nothing new. So as it stands right now, I call it a soft rebuild pending any moves they make in the future. Thank you guys for joining me on the Two Tone Talk podcast. This podcast is available everywhere. I apologize for the technical difficulties on YouTube today, of which there have been more while I've been recording this podcast. Hope to get that situated and squared away for next time. But this is the Two Tone Talk podcast where we stay way too high on the wins, way too low on the losses. And we are rapidly approaching the draft in a month. We didn't even get to talk about the draft today. Talk about it next time. Thank you guys. Tighten up. Bye, everybody.
I think it's time for a change. This is what I say.